What's up, internet? My name's Sammy Fightmaster and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So it is June, and if you're unaware, June is recognized as Pride Month. So I decided that throughout the rest of this month, I want to give a little bit of attention to movies and TV shows and things like that that shine a light onto the LGBT community. Like, I'm still gonna do new TV shows and new movies that come out that may not necessarily focus on LGBT issues or people. I'm still going to review those things as they come out, but I do want to give some time, a lot of time actually, on my channel to talking about different things that highlight the LGBT community. So I'm starting off with this video, which is, I decided is going to be a part 1 as I was writing this list. And I'm going to talk about today my top 5 favorite LGBT shows. And I decided that there's going to be a part 2 because I was writing my list. I realized that there are way more than 5 that I love and want to talk about. So I will be making a part 2 at some point towards the end of the month, most likely. And just saying, these are just my opinions. Some of them are not necessarily like cinematic genius shows, but they're shows that mean something to me and that I really like and that I want other people to watch. What I am going to define as an LGBT show today is a show that has like a long-standing character that's queer. Not just like a main character who starts off straight in the show, has a queer relationship for half a season, and then they break up and that's the end of that. They never retouch on it. That's not what I'm talking about today. I'll make a video talking about ships and stuff like that later in the month, but today I want to talk about shows that actually have characters that are on the show for a long time and actually play a part in the show. So how I'm going to do this is start with number 5, go down to number 1, because that's just the best way to do things when you're talking about your top 5. I'm going to show you the poster and give a little like snippet about what the show is about without any spoilers in that. And then I'm going to continue into some spoilers where I talk about the characters that are queer and kind of their role in the show. If you do not want to be spoiled, but you want to see what the shows are, just listen to the little snippet and then fast forward to the next one. Like I said, these are all just my opinions. These are my favorites that I want to share with you all. They might not necessarily be your favorites, and that's fine. Let me know what your favorites are down below. All right, let's get into this. So, starting at number 5 is a very well-known series, Orange is the New Black. So this is a Netflix original show. It is a very queer-heavy show. You know that already. So Orange is the New Black is about this woman named Piper who is normally a law-abiding citizen until her past kind of catches up with her and a decade-old crime is revealed that lands her in a minimum security prison for about 1.5 years. And while she's in this prison, we start learning a whole lot about what actually happened in this crime that she committed with an ex-girlfriend. And we get to see like how a women's prison is, at least to Netflix's mind. I'm not saying that real women's prisons are exactly like Orange is the New Black. I don't think that that's the case. This show is filled with queer characters. They're everywhere. And that's probably why I started watching the show. There's a lot. I could make a whole video off the characters. There's a lot of lesbians, bisexuals, there's straight women too. But there's also, Laverne Cox is in the show and she plays a transgender woman named Sophia Bursett. I remember that being like such a huge deal when the show first started because I never knowingly, at least, knew that an actor on a show was trans. And that was very cool for me to see. That was some cool representation. But I really loved this show. It deals with a lot of issues, even beyond being queer in a prison. It deals with a ton of issues going on, and I liked seeing everybody's individual stories. I loved getting to know the characters. I became very emotionally attached to these characters, and when anything happened to them, I felt like I needed to go and protect them. It's a good show. A lot of drama in it, Definitely not for the faint of heart. If you are very modest and don't like to see any nudity on the screen, this is not your show. It is a Netflix original, so they do whatever the heck that they want on it. So coming in at number 4 is the show Runaways. It is a Marvel show on Hulu. It only has 3 seasons, and that's it. They're stopping at 3. This show is about a group of teenagers that kind of stumble on to some illegal activity that their parents are doing. They thought that their parents were just normal, dorky parents just trying to ruin their lives. And it turns out they are kind of criminals, and the kids don't know how to process that, obviously. So they form kind of like their own superhero group where they want to atone for the actions of their parents. And eventually they run away, hence the title of the show. And it's a Marvel show. So there's a lot of like superhero-y magic and powers and things like that happening, because you can't be in the Marvel universe and not have that, right? So this group of teenagers are made up of Alex, Nico, Carolina, Chase, Gert, and Molly. Those are the 6 that this show kind of focuses around. But the queer relationship that's in this show is between Carolina and Nico. And you can see within the first episode that Carolina definitely likes girls. Because you see her, she goes to this party, and there are these 2 girls kissing, and she's staring at them, like, for a while. And not in, like, the, wow, you all are so disgusting way. It's the, I think I want to try that kind of way, is how she was staring at them. And we find out she's kind of in love with Nico. For a little bit, I didn't support the relationship because it felt like Nico was not invested or didn't want to be invested. But their relationship kind of becomes a big deal in seasons 2 and 3, where they have very different dynamics. Carolina's really light, Nico's really dark. At least personalities you don't think would mix. But it comes to be very important in the show. I loved watching them grow and become a couple and grow as a couple. I mean, they're teenagers. They have their challenges and they act dumb sometimes. But in season 3, you get to see that both of them want to get married, and you get to see their versions of their wedding to each other. And it was so cute. It melted my heart and I loved it. I highly suggest going to check it out. It's on Hulu, all 3 seasons. So my number 3 show is a fairly recent show called Utopia Falls. It is another Hulu original. So this show was one of the first ones that I reviewed on this channel, and I really liked it. It's a very different kind of show. Like I said in my review, it has a couple of elements into the genre that don't seem like they mix, but they do very well in this show. This show is about a group of teens in this very distant, futuristic colony. It's very utopia-like. At least that's what it's supposed to seem like. So this group of teenagers kind of stumble upon this old, ancient archive of old historical, musical, and cultural relics. And they start to question everything that's happening in their society and why their society is the way that it is. And they kind of use their new knowledge and the power of music to help incite some change into their current community, because it turns out it's not as perfect as everybody wants it to seem. And this show is in my top 5 because of the way that it handles being queer. So in the show, there's a relationship between Brooklyn and Sage, 2 girls, and nobody treats it like it's weird at all. They don't have to come out. They just exist. They like each other. That's known. They talk about it with their friends, and that's it. And they get together. I talked about that in my review too. It's a spoiler review, sorry. And these 2 girls are 2 of the main characters in the show. And towards the end of the season, in the last episode, you see they kind of reconcile their differences and end up together in the end. Don't know what that means for season 2, which still has not officially been announced. So go check out Utopia Falls and get it renewed for season 2, please. You see the attraction between Brooklyn and Sage start like the second that they meet in episode 1. And that kind of continues throughout all the other episodes. There's 10 episodes on Hulu. Go watch it. So coming in at number 2 on my top 5 favorites here is a show called Lost Girl. It is a Canadian-based show, which I forgot to mention, Utopia Falls is also a Canadian-based show. It's a very kind of sci-fi show. It's on Netflix. It is about a woman named Bo who finds out after all these years of thinking that she's just a freak that she is actually supernatural. And she's got powers, and she's technically a part of this community of other supernaturals known as Fae. And the Fae have a lot of rules that they want her to follow once she figures out that she is Fae. And she's pretty headstrong and pretty independent, so she decides she wants to do things her own way, and she kind of shakes up the whole supernatural world just a little bit. Or a ton. Bo is the main character, and she's had relationships with men and women. Probably her biggest relationship in the show is with a woman. She's a human doctor who is like obsessed with the supernatural world. And they have an on again, off again relationship. They do eventually like work through things, get back together. I can't tell you how many times that they broke up because I don't know. And it was a good ending to the show. I was very happy with how the show ended. So it ended a couple years ago. It's a very good show. I highly suggest watching it. There's a lot of queerness in it, and it's great. And finally, here we are at number 1. This is a show that probably not a lot of people have heard of unless you have been searching for it. And that show is called South of Nowhere. This show, it was on the N, which shows you how old it is. So the show ran between 2005 and 2008. So, long time ago. Ended 12 years ago. That's a long time. I was 10 when the show ended. So, yeah. Oh, or 11. I keep forgetting how old I am now. Oh, man. This show, it's not the best quality in, like, production. But it's a very important show, and it's probably the first ever show that I watched that had, like, a main character that's gay. And I like sought out this show. I started watching it when I was in late middle school, so around the time I was 13. It is about a family that moves from Ohio to LA, and it's a family of 5, mom, dad, and their 3 teenage kids, and they're not exactly prepared for the very large change in pace from their old town in Ohio to LA. LA is very different than any small town anywhere. LA is its own world, basically. So the main character that they focus on in this show is Spencer. She is the younger sister of Glenn and Clay. They're all around the same age, which is interesting. And gosh, their poor mom, to have them all teenagers at the same time. That has to be horrible. Spencer is questioning her sexuality when she moves to LA. Like, that's already happening. And she meets a girl named Ashley, who is an out lesbian. At least that's what she says for a while. Ashley's a complicated girl. She's very complicated, and if you watch the show, you will see that. But Spencer discovers that she's not straight, and she comes from a very Catholic family, so that's very hard for her to deal with. And this show kind of follows, at least in the first season, kind of her journey of figuring out who she is. And then there's 2 more seasons, season 2 and season 3. She becomes very comfortable with who she is and being out. And this show, it mainly follows her being out, which is awesome. It is my favorite show because it meant a lot to me when I was younger and trying to figure out my sexuality, to have something to go look at and not necessarily compare myself to, because I am not like Spencer or Ashley at all. Probably more Spencer, but I have lived in the same town my entire life and was not planning any big moves at 13 to LA. But I dealt with a lot of the same issues that Spencer had to deal with, so it was nice for me to see growing up and having that to go to. And I've rewatched the series several times at several different points in my life. Spencer and Ashley were like the first ever couple that I like truly shipped. So this show like changed my life. And I love the show. It's always going to have a special place in my heart. You'll watch it and be able to tell how old it is very quickly. and it's not shot the best, and some of the storylines aren't the best, but it's still a lovable show. So yeah, I highly suggest going to check it out. I had to buy the show through Amazon Prime. I bought like the online digital streaming, whatever. But it's a very good show. If you're struggling with anything, I suggest watching it. So that is my top 5. And I guess part 1 of this little series. I'm definitely going to do a part 2 to round out the top 10, I guess, of my favorites, because there's so many more that I want to talk about and that people should go check out. I know a lot of Pride festivals and parades are not happening this year because of COVID. So if you celebrate Pride with your friends, just be safe. And I hope that you all have a very, very happy Pride Month. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you're new around here and you have not subscribed to my channel yet, I would love it if you would do that at the end of this video, and then hit that bell to be notified when I post new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So that is all that I've got for you today. So I guess I will see you next time. Bye.